Hey everyone, recently on Reddit, on the fantasy subreddit, there were the results of the top 100 fantasy novels of 2023. Now, back in the dark ages of the internet, back in 1999, Reddit did not exist. There was a thing called usenet, which had things called newsgroups. In fact, wait a second, is that where Reddit got the idea from? Anyway, one of the newsgroups back in the day was called Rec Arts SF, written SF, not necessarily meaning sci-fi, meaning speculative fiction. And so a guy called Tristram Cook decided to come up with a list of what at that point in time was called the Internet Top 100 Science Fiction List. And the first one was published in January 95. It only had 30 people voting on it, so I'm not sure it's quite representative. So I thought it would be interesting to go and look at the last results in 1999. And at this point in time, it had been changed to be called the Internet Top 100 SF/Fantasy List. And there were 2,500 people voting. So that's actually quite comparable to the Reddit poll, which I think had about 1,000 people voting. So in this video, I'm just going to go through the top 10 fantasy novels or series according to the list, and then in another video, I'll go through the top 10 sci-fi books or series. Number 10 is First Chronicles of Amber by Roger Zelazny. This is the first book, 9 Princes in Amber, which I have read a long time ago. Someone from our world wakes up in a hospital and then gets taken to this other world. He's actually come from there and he's got amnesia. It's a little bit strange. I haven't read the rest, but I do intend to read the rest. I've got most of them. That is number 10. Coming in at number 9 is The Deed of Paksennarion, which is a trilogy of books by Elizabeth Moon, which I have never actually heard of. Sounds like it's kind of medieval fantasy with dwarves and things, and elves, and gnomes. And then there were 2 sequel series as well. Number 8 is The Princess Bride by William Goldman, or S. Morgenstern. The Good Parts version, abridged. This is a fantastic book. If you like the movie, you will like this because the same author that wrote the book did the screenplay for the film, and so a lot of it is word for word exactly the same. There's a few bits that aren't in the movie just because they wouldn't make sense, but it's a fantastic read. Quite funny to hear some of the comments on Amazon. Apparently there are people that don't understand that this abridged version is actually the full version. Number 7 is Palindor by J.R.R. Evans. Again, another series I have never heard of. An excellent fantasy in the tradition and spirit of Tolkien and Lorehead, Stephen Lorehead. The land of Palindor is under siege by a wicked queen, and only the efforts of a teenage girl, Katrin, who is unexpectedly drawn into this fantasy world, can save the kingdom. Kind of sounds a bit like a mixture of Tolkien and Narnia. Okay, coming in at number 6 is The Annals of the Black Company by S. Glen Cook, which is a series of dark fantasy novels which were written in 1984, 1985, and there were subsequent sequels. Again, this is something I haven't even heard of, so obviously people like it. Coming in at number 5 is The Stone of Tears by Terry Goodkind, which is the second book in the Sword of Truth trilogy, and I know a lot of people have various opinions on Terry Goodkind, so let's leave that there. Coming in at number 4 will be something I think most of you will be familiar with. It is the Discworld series. So at this point in time, there were probably about 25 or 30 of the books out. Obviously, he kept writing and then passed away, but that is still a very popular series. Coming in at number 3 is Tigana by Gavriel Kay. He actually helped Christopher Tolkien with editing the Silmarillion, I think. This is actually a really good book. I think some people don't like his writing style, but I really enjoyed this. It was quite different to any other fantasy I had read at the time. First published in 1990. I highly recommend it if you're looking for a fantasy novel that is potentially a little bit quite different to the norm. Number 2 is The Lions of Al-Rassan by Gavriel Kay. That is one I have not read, but it's interesting to see that he gets 2 spots on the list. And coming in at number 1, was there any doubt? It is, of course, The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien, the great-grandfather of all that is fantasy. Of course, this was before Brandon Sanderson came around. So that's it for the fantasy. Check out my other video, which will be the top 10 sci-fi books from the same list. Let me know in the comments if there were any surprises there and whether you've read some of these ones that I've never heard of. See you in the next video and keep on reading.